So hey, my name is Memoir. I'm a teacher, rapper. Some would say hero, author. Mostly musician these days, but wrote my first book at the beginning of last year and released it. I've really been working on this thing for a really long time, and I just wanted to tell a bunch of stories that I thought would be interesting, not just for like fans of mine, but hopefully people who could find some inspiration within these stories, you know. And it all really started when I was on the road with K Murdoch, probably 10 years ago plus. We were on the road during the MC Chris tour, and I just remember just during our long rides, just telling him stories, and him saying like, "You should write a book. Like these are some really interesting stories." But most of those stories like involved other people that I didn't want to like include or embarrass, you know. So I was like, well, maybe I could change some names and make it
Protect the
protect the innocent and guilty. So we were able to do that. But through the process of writing down these little stories after he said that, I was like, I got enough for a book before I knew it, you know. So once the pandemic hit, I was just like, I'm home a lot more. I'm not touring. I'm not traveling. I'm committing to finishing this book. So I sat down with everything I had, tried to finish up chapters. I hired an editor. I just didn't trust myself. I'm an English major. I think I'm pretty good with words, but I didn't trust myself to be, you know, the final editing say. So I hired two different editors to look over things, and they kept saying, it's fine. And I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, please critique me, tear this apart, you know, tell me that it sucks so I can go back and fix it. And finally, I had a second editor like really, really dig in there. And so that helped me to finish the book.
You didn't trust the first editor? Like, what?
It's not that I didn't trust the first editor, but when someone just says, oh, it's fine,
Yeah,
I
need a yes man. Like,
that's a red flag to me. Like, it's not totally fine. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be 100% okay. To me, that makes me feel like, and I could be wrong, but it makes me feel like you didn't fully read it, or maybe you just skimmed it, you know? Like, there's no way that a first-time author writes a, 300-page book and it's completely okay, immaculate. And so the moment I sent it to my publisher, they were like, you might want to change these names of any person in here, like any person at all, you know, like just to keep yourself safe. And I think, what did they mention? Oh, and the songs. They were like, hey, I know you're using lyrics from songs. Are they your own? Like, do you own them? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, well, just want to make sure. So, you know, they were like, we just don't want you getting in trouble. So that was a few things I learned. But the process of trying to find a publisher was like a really terrible experience. There's really no other way to say it. You know, like around the time that I was finishing it was early 2020, 2020. And, you know, the world was different at that time. Things were happening. So people had the same issue that they've had with my music, where they were like, oh, it's good, but how do I classify this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is this a story about video games? Is this a musician's memoir? Is it, you know, a collection of short stories? Is it a black story? And I was like, well, what's that mean? And they're like, well, I'm just saying with the events in the United States that like black stories are kind of in. And I'm like, oh, that felt kind of disgusting. And so I had a lot of real awkward conversations,
wow.
You know, because people, like I said, just like with music, they want to know how to classify it. Like, I don't think I need to plug, but thank you. So they want to know how they can classify it. Like, how do you categorize this? Because people want to know. Just like a video game, it's like, all right, is it a platformer? Is it a shooter? Is it sports? Is it a puzzle? You know, so when you go a little bit outside of that, or some kind of crazy hybrid combination of those things, they think it's not sellable, you know? And so they really wanted me to bear down and like press down on like the moments that I talk about race in there, the moments that I talk about, you know, just, I don't know, just juicy topic.
Right.
You know, and and it felt kind of gross, you know. And I was just like, that's not what I wanted to do at all with this. I just wanted to tell my story. And but you know, it's just like a movie. You know, when a movie is made off a book, it's kind of slanted. You know what I mean? Like they add to the juicy things and make them a little more dramatic. You know, and so it's the same thing with a book. But
what was an example of something you turned in and they were like, can you embellish and make it a little bit more, juicy? I hate to say it like that. But you know what I mean?
kinda. I mean, there's a story in there about me working at CVS when they got robbed, and like I had a gun on me. You know, this person pulled a gun on me, and they were like, really, can you like really flesh this out? Like, let's just go through a whole chapter about like what's going through your mind and the gun and what the gun looked like and what this, you know. And I was just like, no, I don't really want to do that.
Where they're like, and can you say you peed your pants just to really embarrass yourself,
Yeah,
but also
just-
make some more money?
Just to really embarrass yourself. And yeah, man, they want the juice, and like I felt like this is not that type of thing for me. Like I really wanted to make sure to not be that. Like I wanted to just tell a story and not over dramatize anything like that, especially my experience, you know. And but yeah, man, it's been quite a challenge. But do you have any particular like questions or?
Well, I remember when you told me,
Viewpoints.
at first I thought about, of course, you know, I'm always joking. I was like, yeah, I remember when we recorded Dream Master back at when I lived in Virginia and you came down. That's the first time I literally met you. And I know you recount and tell the story in the book, but I was going to say something like, yeah, I remember that day when you laid the verse and I was being prophetic and it said, that's going to one day be a great book title. Like, I had no idea what the hell we were doing, to be very honest with you, when we did Forever Famicom. But I was really, I thought it was cool that you did name the book Dream Master. And then, you know, not only because I got to work with you on that song, but also from performing it and knowing how you, like, what the song means to you and basically how autobiographical it was. It was really cool for you to kind of expound and basically make it the name of the book. But why did you ultimately, you've done so many songs, like, was that the plan to always name something like after IP you've done essentially? Like,
I don't know, but I think it's because Dream Master is kind of the quintessential Mega Ran song. Like it's the autobiographical song. Like the story of Mega Ran is within that track, and that's basically almost like a cliff notes of the book. You know what I mean? Like that song is a quick summary. So, you know, it is an emotional track for me. Like the first time I wrote it, I'm not afraid to say, like I was in your house writing it, and like tears were coming out my eyes, like just being like it was like a diary entry for me. I was writing down things that had happened and that I had never really expressed.
Right.
Like I couldn't talk to anybody about. So it was writing down these embarrassing moments and, you know, just things about that, like pieces of my life that I was afraid to talk about. So first time I heard it, I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna perform this. So, you know, at least it's just it's the album cut. It will never be performed. And I just knew that. And then it kind of started picking up popularity, and I was like, oh boy, I do have to play this. And I think the first time I played it was probably here at MAGFest. And I remember saying it too, like I never thought I'd play this live. And and when I did play it, a lot of people would come up to me like, man, like I experienced that too, or these things happened to me too, like you're not alone. And they don't know it, but that really helped me because as a kid, you think like the whole world's against you, like you're having the hardest time in the world. That's about the one thing with the pandemic that's given me a little bit of solace is that, everybody's going through it. You know, this isn't just a dark cloud over your head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is everybody having to adjust. So, you know, a lot of times when bad things happen, people look at it like, man, why me? Why me? You know? And this was one thing where you can't say that. So, but yeah, it was because the song meant so much to me. Like when I played it live, it's 10 years later, I play it and still feel emotion, you know? So it's an important, powerful track. And I think it's so fitting that was the only song we recorded in person together.
Yeah, I know.
Everything else was just file transfers.
Yep.
And one weekend, I came home maybe for holiday break, and I came to Philly, and I borrowed my mom's car, and I drove to D.C.
But you didn't tell her you were driving to DC. You were like, I'm just going out for a while.
Nah, I was like, I'll be back, and she's like, all right, and I just drove and drove. It was like 2-3 hours, and pulled up at the house, and we worked on the song, and then I drove back, and yeah, so it was a very special moment to be able to do that one in person. Like, that was the one. I remember I came in, I think you had the game up on the screen.
Yeah, I was playing the emulator. I
you were
felt so
playing
bad
Little
that you
Nemo.
were saying you were like crying because I had my back turned playing the emulator. Like, do you need me to like keep looping this part so you can like write to it?
Yeah, pretty
I was
much.
like totally oblivious. Like,
Yeah, I was going through it, but
so
you were like playing this game, this hard game. If you ever played Little Nemo, the Dream Master, it's a very hard game.
even with the ROMs and the freezes, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I had to play it that way because
It's so hard. But it's a fun game, very colorful, interesting. Weird message that you feed candy to animals and then you can ride them, It's like, don't follow this advice, kids.
Sounds like QAnon.
But
yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's why. Like, it was just a special song to me. Like, and it still is. And not saying other songs aren't special in their own way, but this one really got an emotional response out of me, where like I struck a nerve. You know what I'm saying? And like, and also with the listener. Like, a lot of listeners have told me that they've also felt those same feelings. So that's why. Also, I talk about it in the book, but Dream Master was it's the subtitle of like Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I think. And in that movie, what's the lead character? Kristen, I think, is she's the one person who's able to navigate within her dreams and like go after Freddy.
Right.
So Freddy has to get rid of her because she's the Dream Master. So like, it's just both of those things with the same title of Dream Master. Like,
both
really,
part of your childhood.
yeah. Like, I remember my cousin playing that movie for me and me being like terrified. Because I was too young to watch. And he was like, we're going to watch it anyway. You with the big boys. And I was like, yes. And then I just sat up all night like, oh,
You
I'm
realize
scared.
how much of a bad comedian Freddy Krueger is. Oh.
Freddie was terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so those two pieces of my childhood, like Dream Master, stuck in both of them. So I just felt like, man, like, with what we've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years, I kind of do feel like a dream master. Like, we've mastered somehow the art of making our dreams reality.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Which is like awesome when you think about it. Like, who has the power to do that? And I say that like, oh, I'm living my dream, but I don't even think that's true, because the stuff I do, I didn't see in my dreams at all. I didn't see me making songs for wrestlers or, you know what I'm saying? Like, doing a Guinness World Record or traveling the world. Like, I never saw that. You know what I mean? I just enjoyed the things I enjoyed, and cool things started happening, which was really dope.
Right.
But I can't say this is a dream come true, because I didn't think these dreams were possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I guess I've exceeded in some ways dreams,
Well, you mentioned early, just talking just now, you mentioned the pandemic, and I was thinking, shout out to IQ, aka Chris. He was saying, if you get to, moderate or ask these questions, like one of them that I'm dying to know, and me too, is like, why now? Was it the pandemic because it kind of slowed everything down, and you were like, well, I don't got nothing much else going to do, so let me just finally stop putting off writing it. I know you have been writing it.
I've been writing it for years, but
be more focused.
Yeah, I had more time at home. That's really what it was, and I was like determined to finish like older projects that I hadn't finished. And I was like, well, you got time. There's literally no excuse.
Right.
Like, before that, I was gigging pretty heavy. Like, every other weekend, I was going, to a convention or touring or doing something. So once I finally was home for an extended amount of time, I was like, well, let me dig back into these old projects. And there's still a lot more projects that I haven't even touched yet. But one of them was this book. Like, my Dropbox is just full of drafts of this book. And I'm just like, what am I going to do something with this? And I started just really setting a goal, like, all right, I'm going to try to write a chapter a week. And that was my goal. I was like, a chapter a week is going to happen. And then I kept pretty good to that. And so by each Sunday, I would kind of check in with myself, like, you got a chapter? Like, is it good? And then I go back and, make some things happen. But Yeah, it was just a matter of just sitting. I had time to sit still.
Right.
Like, that's really all it was. If it weren't for the pandemic, I don't think I would have finished it, at least not yet.
Yeah, the pandemic like cast slow on the world. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because everyone was busy, or should I say, stop in some
Yeah.
instances.
And I don't really know how to stop and do nothing, which is something that I should learn. But when I stop, even I'm looking around like there's something that needs to be done. Something. I got to do something, And the book was it. And people have asked me like, "Yo, like usually people write a memoir like when their career is over.
Yeah, yeah.
Like why are you writing a memoir now?" And then I was like, wait. Did you know that Ice-T wrote his first book like after his first album?
Oh wow.
I forget what it's called. What is it called? The Ice Cold Truth or something like that. I don't know. Ice-T wrote a book very early on, and then wrote another later. There's a few other folks who did that. So it doesn't mean it's the end.
Right.
But to me, they told me to make sure I had an ending in sight when I was writing. And for me, the ending was the Guinness World Record.
Okay.
2018. So the book ends in 2018. And so, of course, a lot has happened since 2018. I think a lot of really good stuff. So it's just more stuff for the next book. And that was the hardest thing for me. It's like trying to figure out when to stop.
Right.
I was like, no, I got to keep going. And my editor was just like, no, save it for the next book. Like, whatever you're thinking, keep it in your pocket for the next book. And I was like, oh, yeah, there can be a next book. Okay. Like, I didn't think about that at all.
Right.
So, honestly, if I do another book, I think it's going to be a different genre. So, either it'll be a science fiction, self-help, children's, something like that before I go back to memoir style. And that was another thing, man. I had publishers telling me, yeah, it's hard to sell memoirs if you're not like an A-lister. Like, no offense, but like, if you're not a Kardashian or Will Smith, it's going to be hard to sell a memoir because people just don't care about somebody they don't know about. And I was like, well, that's fine. I'll just do it myself, And I've heard that my whole life, as far as music goes. Like, yeah, who's this relating to? This is a very small group of people. And I'm like, that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to hit the New York Times bestseller list.
It would be nice, I'm sure.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
But I just want to get these thoughts out,
Right,
and that's really
right.
what it was. Hopefully this can inspire somebody.
Right.
That's it.
I'm always curious because it's you and I had another, like a mentor of mine who is in the process of writing a book, and he did the route where he's like, okay, I'm at the end of my career. It's time to kind of like jot this stuff down while I remember it,
Mm-hmm.
But I always asked him, and I want to ask you, I was like, where do you begin? Like, how did you decide, okay, what am I going to include? I know you said the end game was the Guinness, so it's kind of like you gamified, you know what I mean? Like, that was the final boss, essentially, or how you going to clear. But, like, where did you decide as far as, like, how to start, how early? I know you talk about growing up in Philly and everything, and your family in South Carolina and stuff, but yeah, like, and even within that, like, how did you decide what to put in and what to not put in, how deep to go,
I set a example. Like, for my whole life, I've always been taught, like, with teachers anyway, they say, like, the best teachers are the best thieves. Like, the people who can see what works in another classroom and then try to apply it. So I was reading Obama's book, and that inspired me a lot, just seeing his direction and where he went from, his first book, where he talks about his father and stuff. And he talks about growing up, and then he stops at a certain point. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start with the beginnings in Philadelphia and all that. It was actually Michelle Obama's book that I was really inspired by. And a lot of it was childhood, and I was like, I want to talk a lot about Philadelphia and what these things that kind of shaped me. So it was the idea, and it's funny, in Star Wars canon, they're not canon anymore, but they're called shatter points, these moments that change everything that comes before or after them, like this moment that happens. But through Star Wars, changing things a lot, they don't actually exist anymore. But yeah, like, I started writing down, like, what are the shatter points in my life? Like, what are the moments that are super crucial? And I'm like, all right, a moment from age 5 to 10 that I remember. A moment from age 10 to 15 that I remember.
Okay.
15 to 20, And I started writing these things down, like little bullet points. And I was like, okay, now I got the things that I can write about, And so that's how it was for me. Like, I wanted to talk a lot about my upbringing in the beginning. And through that, it was like therapy, You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some moments in the book, I don't want to, like, spoil, but super traumatic things that were happening that I didn't realize at the time. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you look back, you're like, oh, snap, that was really effed up, you know? And you don't realize it till you write it out. And so that was super helpful for me, you know? Like, it definitely served as like a therapist. Like, it felt like a session, you know, being able to spill these things out.
Right.
And then I was like, just like with Dream Master, I was like, oh, I can't share this. I won't, you know, I want to pull back. But then I was like, well, it might help somebody to be able to talk about these things. So I put it all out there, you know, and it was cathartic, you know what I'm saying? It was like painful at the same time. And people were like, yo, you're so descriptive. You're so, you know, you share so much. And I'm like, I've always been that way. Like, I just, you know, music, you know, my personal life, like, I'm okay with sharing, you know what I'm saying? So why would not be in a book? So, but yeah, I wanted to really dig into certain points that I thought would have affected me, like, or affected life after them, you know? So there were like 25 of those points. And once I knew I had those, I could build the book around them, you know?
Did any part in particular come really easy? Like, you had to almost like stop, like, yo, I'm like going a little too much, too descriptive about this part. Like, I need to like dial it back, or just, I guess, be more succinct. Like, well, you know, anything that can come to mind that you started scripting or scribing and you were like, okay, like, let me scale it back a little bit.
It was more or less trying to fit everything into, not the narrative, but more like the format.
Okay.
I'd already boxed myself into a format, you know,
okay.
like of chronological order. And I was like, oh, well, this thing happened before that, so I kind of want to jump around. So there's a moment when I start talking about, like, police brutality where I start jumping around to different moments. And they all relate back to a moment of me on the stage. And there's the story that I tell in there is the story playing a show in Seattle, and it was the day that the George Zimmerman verdict came through. Yeah. And I had a show that same day, and like the range of emotions to be able to like still play a show when like I was like depressed and sad. So it was like a whole chapter's worth, you know, and I was like, well, maybe this isn't like just for one show. Like, maybe we don't need to necessarily go that deep. So I pulled it back a lot. But it was super important because, like, there's moments, like, I clearly remember, like, fans coming up to me afterwards, like, asking me, hey, like, you know, I asked for, like, a moment of silence on stage for Trayvon, and, like, and after the show, people asking me, like, was Trayvon related to you? Like, was there, like, you know, and I'm just like, whoa, and, like, I couldn't respond to that person the way I wanted to because I was so in shock. So I was just like, nah, man, nah, and, like, packing up my merch and like just wanting to leave. And so I wanted to write those feelings out for sure. So the chapter gets long, but I think it's super important. But yeah, like it helped me to talk about a lot of things that, like I said, at the time I didn't know how to verbalize it because I was just dealing with a bunch of inner hurt, but I also got to do my job, you know? Right. And it was kind of that day that I decided that I can, like, I'm my own boss. So the way I do my job, I can choose to do this job in a better way. Right. So therefore, I can include these things, and they won't feel so out of place, you know. Like, so from then, that's what I decided to do, you know. So it definitely altered the direction kind of Megaran.
Have there been anyone who's like personally, like in your life, from Rachel, your wife, to your mom, who's read it and been like, hey, we need to talk about some of the things that are in here? Like,
my mom like says that a lot of the stuff about her is either inaccurate or that she didn't want me to share. She's definitely told me that. She's like, you know, sometimes, because all I'd say is that I don't know. Like, she doesn't share a lot with me. And she's like, well, if you don't know, you shouldn't talk about it. You know, and I'm like, but you're my mom. Like, how can I just skip you in the whole story? Like, you raised me. Right. And she's like, yeah, but if I don't tell you the story, you know, you don't have to talk about it, you know? And so, but that's what I did. I say in the story that my mom doesn't share with me the story about my dad or the story about how they met. Like, she will not talk to me about my dad. She has nothing positive to say about him. And so That's all I said. But she's like, you're making me look mean, you know? And I'm just like, no, it's just the truth.
Right.
Like, I try my best because, I mean, she raised me. And so when I finished that, it was my editor who was like, yo, do you think your mom's going to be offended? You got to find a way to make her look good. And I was like, well, of course, you know? And she's like, how about this? And she brings me back, like, this other story I told about the prom and how my mom helped me, like, gave everything and spent all types of money to help me go to the prom last minute. And she's like, you say that, so why don't we fit that into this same area so that, you know, it's very clear to everyone that you appreciate all she goes through for you. And I was like, good idea, you know? So this is the second editor who was really hands-on, not like, it's all good, it's great, you know? But yeah, it helped me out a lot. But she still was like, yeah, I read it. And I was like, what'd you think? She's like, mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, sorry, Mom, you know, like I'm being honest, you know, like, and my honest point of view is that you don't tell me a lot of things, you know. And she's like, yeah, I don't tell you because, you know, I don't feel like talking about it. And I'm like, well, that's what I said, you know. And yeah, she wasn't super happy. She was just like, next time, just you could just not mention me. I was like, no, I can't.
Next time, like,
You know, like,
it's
she's like,
already
you don't
on.
have to say my mom at all. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I do. You
People
know?
think on it, yeah, like you're not mother, like parentless, like come on.
Right. I have to mention it. Like, she's in all of my, you know, so many of my songs and things. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, so that was interesting. Like, cause she didn't read it before it came out, and it makes me think because I was just scared. I was scared to talk to her. You know, like they say, like you should sit down and interview your parents or things like that. I was scared, so I didn't do it, and I kind of wish I did. It's probably one regret, and at some point I think I will. Like, just sit down with her. Like, hey, look, can you talk to me about
Yeah.
my family and my upbringing? Can you talk to me about it? But she's just holding a lot of hurt. You know what I mean? From, I guess, how things went with her and my dad. So she doesn't want to share. You know what I'm saying? But maybe now that my dad's passed, like maybe she'd want to talk to me. I don't know. But that's probably one thing I would have loved to include is me having a conversation with her about things. But
Bring her on a podcast.
yeah, we'll do a podcast. There you go.
You know. Yeah.
There you go. We've been talking about a foster parenting podcast, me and my wife, about our journey. So I think we are going to do that. And I think maybe having my mom pop in would be
That's
pretty
awesome.
dope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be you know, if this thing gets extended, if there's like some sort of, I don't know, what do they call it, editor's
Right.
version? I don't know, extended cut. I don't know. There'll be some very interesting chapters
The
for
Zack
sure.
Snyder version of
Yeah,
your
the
book.
Snyder cut of this book will be 800 pages. But yeah.
You mentioned I'll be talking about your mom and stuff, someone like personally, but was there anyone like that you work with, like, or tour with who, like, in recanting a story, they were like, hey man, that wasn't quite how it went, like, or maybe saw it a little differently, like.
You know, my roommate from college, John, I realized I was like, I probably shouldn't have put his real name, first of all. But like, it wasn't anything like, it kind of was. So, oh no, I won't tell too much. But me and John were in college together, and we did a lot of crazy stuff in college. So, but he's like married with kids, and he works for the Philadelphia Police Department now. So it's probably not best to talk about all the wild stuff we did. But when I met up with him, he started telling me stories like, man, remember this happened? And I was like, I don't remember that at all. And it started making me think like, oh, maybe I got some of this wrong.
Uh-oh.
And like, he was like, I want to buy the book off you. I'm like, maybe not. Let's talk a little more first, you know? And it makes me think like, maybe I was, like, it's possible that I could have seen some things differently or maybe experienced them differently than he did. But he's telling me all these really good stories, and I was like, man, I wish I would have put that in there, but I didn't remember it, you know. But me and him, we were wild in school, and I feel like maybe I shouldn't have talked about how wild we were.
Yeah. Well, you never know where people are gonna end up. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't think like, you know, if I was okay with incriminating myself too, you know,
Right.
in those things. I mean, nothing like, you know, nothing that would put us in jail, but like it might make people look at you a little differently. So I guess I should think about those things. And that is probably that's a real concern with writing a memoir. It's like this is the way I remember it
Right.
versus
Right.
the way someone else remembers it. So I remember there's a story about Mace and Jim Jones having a beef because because Mace wrote a book. And he talks about how him and Cameron and Jim Jones like did certain things together, and he's like, "You using people's names in your book? I could sue you for that." Like people
Like it's libel or something.
yeah, like they were getting angry, and he's like, "Well, you remember it this way, but I remember it different way." And they were like, "Are you gonna sue?" He's like, "No, because suing is for chumps." But I'm just letting you know, they were just like arguing on the radio about it. I thought that was funny, but yeah, man. When I talked to him, I was like, "Wow, like maybe I should have talked to him before we did this because I think it would have gave me some dope insight." You know what I'm saying? So that is probably what I would if I did another story like this. What the heck is that noise? I don't know. Is that this thing? Oh, that's you. Thanks, sir. Please silence all cell phones. No. I don't know. Any other questions?
I have a couple more before. I obviously I want the people in the audience, if anyone has. I mean, even we can do it now. If anyone wants to like ask something, this is the time to do it. It's like speak now.
Feel free to chime in if you have a question or.
Does anyone have a? Yeah, for sure.
Nah. Wow, that's an amazing story. I don't know if I tell that in the book, but that's Cisco's favorite song of mine. And talk about surreal. You know what I'm saying? I was at E3, rest in peace E3. And I'm just walking around like, wow, look at that game. And I see some dude with platinum hair being interviewed by somebody else. They got a mic in his hand, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, what's up?" And I was like, "Is that Cisco? That can't be Cisco at E3." And the moment I realized, oh, it is Cisco, I took out a camera to kind of sneak a picture of him interviewing, like, "All right, Cisco, ka-chink." And he sees me taking the picture, and he looks, he's like, hold up. Mega Ran. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm looking around like, no. You're what's going on right now? And he's like, hold up, interviewer. Like, just tells the interviewer to wait. You know what? Mega Ran, come here. And he pulls me onto the interview, into the camera, like, oh my God, y'all don't know Mega Ran? Yo, I play Dream Master for my kids. This guy is amazing. He's a kind of funny best friend. He's so good. He's so dope. Mega Ran, say something to the people. And I was like, and I grabbed the mic. I was like, that's Cisco, y'all. So if it doesn't know, Cisco, the lead singer of an R&B group, Drew Hill, a huge nerd, you know what I mean? And so it turns out he watches a show that I was on as a guest, Greg Miller's, Kind of Funny. And I was a guest there, and he loves the show. And he's just like, man, ever since I heard that Dream Master song, I play it for my kid before we go to sleep. It's his favorite song. He's like, play Mega Ran.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And his kid's name is Ryu. You know what I mean? Like, just showing like how nerdy he is, And it was surreal, man. Like, I was just like, what is happening? Like, me? So and then ever since then, like, it's strange to say, like, we've been friends. Like, we text about video games. Like, yo, what you playing, man? What you doing? What you doing now? And he loves the Switch, so he's constantly asking me for new Switch recommendations, and very odd.
I remember when we were supposed to do a show in Minneapolis, and he was, I think, living there at the time, and you were saying, yo, he might come out to the show. I got giddy. I was like,
yeah. He told me, he's like, well, he's kind of like me. He's like, yo, I work every weekend. He's like, I'm constantly traveling, flying out to work. But if I'm around when you're around, like, I'll come out to a show. I was like, what? Like, can you imagine Cisco just coming out to a nerd rap show?
Doing an 8-bit version of Thong.
No. So, yeah, every time I've been in town or around or he comes to E3, we would hang out, and it's, like, insane. So he came to this. So I got to thank my friend Chandra. He asked us to come to his video shoot. He did this remix to Thong Song with some DJ, and it was, like, at a skating rink. And we went over there. And it was like a EDM remix, and we went over there, and I had just finished church, and she was like, "Church is my jam. Like, this is my favorite song from you." Blah blah blah. And she was like really hyping it up. And I was like, nobody had heard Church by that time, and then she had made it her ringtone when I sent it to her. And we get over there, and I think her phone rang while Cisco was there. She's like, "Hold on," and then it was, "If you scared, go to," And Cisco was like, "What's that?" And I was like, nothing, just something I'm working on." And then no, Chandra was like, "No, you gotta hear this song, Church." And so she's like, "Stop everything. I'm gonna play it for you." And I was like, "No, this is embarrassing. Please stop." Like I'm not that kind of guy. Like I'm not listen to my phone. I'm never a guy who would chase you around and ask you to work with you constantly, or like beg you to hear my music, or beg you to collaborate, or beg Jeff or my manager or whoever to talk to me and collaborate. I'm not that type of guy. I've never been that type of guy, honestly. So when it turns out that I was like, this is the opposite of what I want, And so she's like, no, play it. And she plays it, and he's just like, like bobbing his head and like dancing a little bit. and I was like, oh my God, he loves it. He's like, and then she's like, what will really sound good is if you got on there and did some runs, and he was like, yo, you serious? Say less. I want to get on this. And I was like, so I called Matt Weiss, who was out in L.A., and I was like, yo, can you get me in the studio? Because Cisco wants to record. And that night, we got in the studio, and he did the remix, Church Part 2.
God.
And laid vocals on it on the Extra Credit album.
Extra Credit, right?
Yeah. So me and Cisco sat in the studio, and he just loved it, man. He was like, tell me your lyrics so that I can say them like along with you, So when I was like, undefeated rebel leaders, I met you within the undefeated, unless you're greater than between the and I was like, that's Cisco, So that all started from like a chance meeting at E3, man. Like,
wow,
very strange. What is my life sometimes, man? I'll be asking myself that. But thanks for that. That's insane.
Anyone else?
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Oh, I'll ask. Show of hands. Anyone have read the book? All right. So that's okay. You're in luck because we have some copies here today. And just for anyone who's attended, since it's not an inordinate amount of people, there's $5 off the book today, right now, if you are an attendee of the panel.
Thought you were going to go Oprah. You get a book.
Check under your seat. You get a book. You get a
No, she's like, no, we ain't.
Also, there's a audio book on Audible, which just came out maybe a couple weeks ago. That was a really difficult experience. Like,
because you had to read the whole. I mean,
yeah.
wow.
So it's bad enough I wrote it and read it a million times and edited it. Now I got to go in the studio, open it up, and stand there and read it and not mess up. So it's like, these words, and it's like they start getting jumbled after a few hours. So it's an 8-hour book when I was finished, but it was probably 15 hours of reading, just as far as like messing up, going back over. It's super tedious, So reading your own work that way is hard. So now I see why people hire people to read. But when I asked the book publisher, Author House, I was like, I want to do an audio book. They were like, yeah, okay, so listen to these demos of all these like voice actors and see who you want to hire to read. And I was like, no, I can read. What do you mean? You want me to go pay somebody to read my book? I hate audiobooks that aren't read by the author.
Yeah.
Like, I never want to do that
Even if it's
again.
a struggle with the author reading it, it's just...
Sometimes it's a struggle. I read the Bobby Brown book.
Oh, my God, yeah. That's what I was thinking about.
Struggle bus. He's like, and then I went
It's
to
like reading is fundamental.
the store.
No.
I was like, what is... I was like, oh, this is a struggle. But... put it on 1.5 speed, you can get right there. You know what I'm saying? It's totally fine. But I listened to OJ's book, If I Did It. I don't recommend, first of all, I don't recommend listening to this book at all. I don't recommend buying it.
Saying, if I did it.
But he didn't read it. They get an actor to read the OJ book.
Oh, boy.
And it's this dude trying to sound like OJ. Well, Nicole was not very nice to me. Here's what happened next. And then it's like, I don't like this at all. So for a lot of reasons, I couldn't finish that book. But apparently, the If I Did It book, useless OJ trivia, proceeds from that book pays the Goldman family. And so because OJ went broke during the trial, he had to pay the family, because he lost in a civil court, he had to pay them millions of dollars and he didn't have it. And he was like, all right, I'll write a book. And they're like, if you're going to write a book, all the proceeds have to go to the Goldmans. He's like, all right. So to fix the Goldmans, I'm going to write a book called If I Did It and describe how the murder would have happened,
no.
even though I got off. And y'all keep all the money from that. And how you going to feel about taking that money?
Like Marvin
So
Gaye,
it was a very, yeah, it was a very like petty move to get back at them. And so the Goldmans were like, all right, if you're going to write this book called If I Did It, the cover has to say, I did it. And then the if has to be very small. Like, it was just like they're fighting petty with petty. So if you notice the cover, the if is inside the I. So it's like you can't even tell that it just says, I did it. So anyway, just weird, useless OJ trivia. During a tour with MC Lars, we went on a real strange OJ rabbit hole. We just couldn't stop finding OJ stuff. But
you can't just leave that there. Like what? Like
nah, we leave it. Well, have you seen this investigative show on this channel where they were trying to say OJ's son did it?
Oh, all right.
Because they went through
maybe I shouldn't have asked that question.
Well, you asked. Now I can tell somebody these conspiracy theories. So OJ's son, he left a storage bin, like a storage garage, unused. So they start giving away the stuff in the storage. They found a knife. They found letters of him saying how much he hated Nicole and blah blah blah. Not saying he did anything, but they found like a knife that could have done the murder.
Oh boy.
All right, so I'll leave it at that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Oh, that's a great one.
Oh yeah, he said if they make a movie, who would play me? Oh, Lil Rel, easily.
You did say that.
I don't know if you know Lil Rel Howery. He's a comedian. He was in Get Out. He was the TSA guy.
Who kind of saves the day? Like
He kind of saved the day. He's like, I'm TSA, mother. You know, like, what else is he in? What's that? Oh yeah, he
Look,
is.
he was in that bad Netflix movie Bird. What was the one with Sandra Bullock?
Bird Box.
Yeah, he was in it. He was for a little
Quick
bit.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say him or Machine Gun Kelly.
Hollywood whitewashing.
Eminem would play me, y'all. I mean, maybe it would have to be somebody who could rap. You know what I'm saying? Because there'll be some rapping scenes. So, who can rap and act?
Drake.
Drake. Hannibal Buress. Who? The guy who played Jet Black. The guy who played Jet Black in Cowboy Bebop. Mustafa. Yeah, yo. I like him. He raps too? Ooh, I heard Idris Elba can rap too, so let's have him.
Oh yeah. Idris Elba.
Idris Elba do some rapping so we can get him.
Idris Elba's like, I'm a 20-year-old dude from Philly.
Yo.
Oh,
What is this, John? What's
He did fool me. I didn't know he wasn't from Baltimore. I thought he was stringing bell.
seriously?
Like,
What is this, John?
well, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
No, he-
nerdcore. That's my John. That would be Idris Elba.
Oh my God.
Good question. I would want it to be somebody kind of funny. I think Hannibal or somebody like that would be good, or Lil Rel, like a comedian. But like, I have an issue watching people that I'm used to funny roles playing serious roles. So like, Jamie Foxx. It's hard for me to take Jamie Foxx seriously in any role because I think in Living Color or just funny stuff.
Yeah, right.
Like in the new Spider-Man, I just felt like, you know, he just kind of does too much. Hey, Spider-Man, I'm gonna get you, man. Why you got me out here naked, man? And like, it's just always like extra. Yeah, it's like he gets his movies mixed up. Like I feel like halfway through the script, he forgets what movie he's doing. But hey, man, you know. But yeah, I would like to see Hannibal Buress. I love Hannibal Buress. So, and he can rap clearly because he did this song over Mike Eagle. So that's a good pick.
that happens, I want Drake to play me.
Drake is gonna be you.
No.
Yeah,
No.
man. Yeah, Ran, we got this.
Oh, hey, I wouldn't put it. There's been so many things that like we joked about, like driving or in the hotel, and then stuff happens, and I'm like, "What is your life, dude?" Like, I'm just happy. I'm get a second degree version, or like,
It's very strange.
it's
man.
amazing, like to just be along for the ride, like, cause I'm like, this is amazing, like.
It really lets me know like anything's possible, dude. Like
Yes.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like T-Pain.
Oh,
being
man.
like a
Well, not-
big streamer.
I mean, I like T-Pain because he's a very community-oriented guy. Like,
Yeah.
he made albums with the Twitch community like in mind. So that's I love what he does. But when you see like the Fortnite Travis Scott thing, you're like, yo, we definitely could have, but stuff like that happens a lot, man. And I always wonder, like, man, the people who would appreciate it and who would bring their community to it and really love it, they overlook for the person who's the top charting person. The Game Awards, perfect example. Every year, people tweet me, yo, Mega ran for the Game Awards. You got to perform there. And I'm like, and then they hire Dead Mouse, They're like, it's what it is. Like, and then I think a couple years ago, Dead Mouse had like a terrible set, and then he gets on Twitter. It's like, look, man, they paid me to play. I did what I did. Leave me alone, And it's like, clearly these people have no love for the community. Right. Like, they're just taking your check and bouncing. And like the people who really care don't get that kind of love. And it is disheartening, man. But I know how the game goes because I've seen it from the beginning. It's funny you mentioned Drake because I'm kind of an answer to a trivia question that involves him because Drake and Lil Wayne were the second artist to be licensed by Capcom,
You were the first. Yeah.
And I was the first. Like they did they did a little thing with me and Mega Man. But when Drake and Wayne were touring, they were like, ooh, let's do Drake versus Lil Wayne and make it like Street Fighter style. And you got to power them up by tapping your phone during the concert. It didn't really work out so well, but it was a cool idea, But yeah, like the money talks. I get it, man. Anything, this is where people don't see from me. This is a kind of a sidebar, but anything I've gotten, and it might seem like a complete total fluke, like me seeing them at an E3, it's because of all the hard work that people don't see. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had to work my butt off.
The WWE. Look, I just think about that. Like, can I tell the story?
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I was on vacation pre-COVID. And Mega Ran and Raheem hits me. He's like, hey, man, I talked to Kofi and Xavier. He's like, I think it's time, man. I think I'm going to do a theme song. I was like, yo, so if you get some beats. I'm like in the middle of the vacation telling my wife, like, I think I need to go home. Like, and these beats. My wife was like, nah.
Like,
So
nah,
I
that's
told
not
her, I think I even told you, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a couple days before I send you something. And it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen.
I think about that was 3 years later. I was like before Kofi's run. And
it took so much work. And then Xavier's run, and they were able to make it happen.
Yeah, man.
But like,
it's not like people aren't trying.
Yeah, like anything that happens for me is so behind the scenes. Like, first real good look I got was the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 vinyl that Capcom put out. And if anybody has this, it's worth money. They did a vinyl for the release, and they had, my God, the people that are on it is crazy. They got hieroglyphics. Dell has a separate song. Talib Kweli, Raekwon, E40. I mean, it's like a who's who.
Right.
And I went, this is the first time I went to E3, and I went to Capcom's booth, and I was like, yo, man, y'all working on a rap? Like, Raekwon was there at the booth, a few other people. And I was like, what is happening? Yo, I rap. Like, they're just looking over me like, if only I knew any other rappers. And I'm like, yo. Psst. And, like, I tried to shoot my shot, and the guy was like, well, I'm pretty much done with it. Like, it's done mastering. Like, if you can't get me this in the next, like, 24 hours, I can't do it. I was like, say less. going home right now. I called, I think Storyville's on the song. We did a song, The Remainder is One, him and Blaze Rock. And we finished that song that night, and I got it to them. So I had to fight my way to get on this project.
No pun intended.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, it takes those, you got to be right place, right time, but you also got to be able to deliver. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'd have said, but you don't understand though, if I get 2 weeks, I'm going to give you the best song ever. They'd be like, get out of my face. You know what I'm saying? They were like, 24 hours or nothing. I was like, you didn't tell Raekwon he needed 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, but whatever. But I realized, like, I'm not a pop star, so I get it. Like, I got to scratch and claw. So any cool opportunity you see from me, it's because I'm, like, one, shooting the shot, but two, executing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta execute, man.
Yes,
so we got the 10-minute warning. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, of course. You got it, brother. Yeah. Yes. Oh, wow.
Damn.
Well, that is quite a
How
question.
was you teaching that, man?
A sitcom.
Really good question.
I mean, it's clear. Well, it's clear because I kind of mentioned in here, and it's something that only probably 80s babies will get, or 80s babies who had premium cable back then, was a show on HBO called Dream On. Now, Dream On was not popular. It hasn't been rebooted. It was this divorcee, 30-something dude who, like, was raised by the TV. Like, in the introduction, they show him, like, the baby getting sat in front of the TV. And it's all black and white. And so anything that happens in his life, he reflects back. He flashes back to, like, an old black and white TV moment. And, like, that's me. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's a video game moment or a pop culture moment or a sports moment, like, I'm remembering it based on that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I connect it. So Dream On for sure. Yep. You disagree with my opinion. That's not possible. Living single. Okay. I love living single. All right. Explain. Mm-hmm.
Oh, like.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah, like
Hey.
wasn't Kyle Barker?
Yeah. Yeah, how about that? Dang.
Oh yeah, or Friends too.
Friends,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, for sure. I like that. Yes. Yeah, originally this book was going to be half stories, like anecdotes, and then advice on just generally advice on living your dreams. So honestly, I think the self-help side of it would be like, I'd give it some grandiose title, like How to Live Your Dreams in 30 Days or How to Quit Your Job. Something crazy that'll make people turn their head. How to quit your job in 30 days, you know. Basically, that's what I want to do. I want to either teach college and show people like the business of content creation. I want to show people how to take their passion and turn it into their vocation. Like, that's really what I want to do, because I know too many talented people who are stuck at 9-to-5 jobs, hating their life, and kind of letting their moment and their talent pass by. So I would try to create some sort of general advice for how to take the thing that you love and make it a bigger part of your life. You know, I remember like doing tours, and our boy Tribe One, Niles, at the end of his set would always say, and one of the most talented rappers I know, like this dude is a beast, super genius too, but he doesn't rap right now because he's happy, you know what I mean? Like, he left, he's like a teacher, he's doing awesome, he's got a great, beautiful family, but at the end of his sets, he would say, like, if you love something, you got to make it a bigger part of your life. You have to find a way, or it'll eat you up forever. you know, and it really I took that to heart, and I was like, I want to be able to show people how to do that, you know. So I think that's the side I would go on with self-help. Thank you.
Don't live your life like what if with the Watcher.
You can't go with the what ifs,
you
you know,
never
like,
know.
and I always have wondered that, even with my career, because it's not perfect. I feel like I'm doing it wrong. I make mistakes every day, but like, I wish I would have quit my job 5 years earlier. And like, I don't know if I'd have been ready, and it might have fell on my face, but I was scared, you know? So like, I got laid off from like a job because I was late to work too much, and because I was up all night making music. And I thought that was probably the sign for me to go just do music full time, but I was so scared. Like, I don't have a paycheck coming in 2 weeks. What am I going to do? And so I went back to the grind. And I feel like that was 2009 when Splash Woman came out. And I was just like, this is not sustainable. Like, there's nobody doing what I do. There's no place for this. I better go back to work. And it took me another 3 years or 2.5 years before I actually had the guts to really quit my job and like focus on this. So, but I think like, man, what would I have done in those 2 years? Like, I could have done something else, you know? I don't know. No regrets though.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
They gave us the 5-minute warning. Any other questions or comments? If you're interested in the book, feel free to just come up on the side and I can get those for you, because they might have another panel coming in, so I don't want to hold up traffic. Yo. Don't judge a book by its cover. Man, I don't know. I think I would be teaching, but I'd be teaching in college or some other place.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like I'd be doing college. I just had enough of teaching like elementary school. Like, I had such a souring, terrible experience in elementary school. You know, kids trying to attack you, you know, like just the constant disrespect, the lack of resources. Like, yeah, I would rather teach in college where at least they're paying to be there, so I feel like they're going to pay attention, you know.
They can get really.
But even then, like, as a college professor, Murdoch, what would you say? Is it easier?
Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's like, well, they think it's a bit of entitlement because they're like, we're paying to be here, so like, you are like work for us.
You work for us.
Give us knowledge. And I've had some situations with students where not trying to beat me up, but just like, yeah,
good,
yeah, but just like,
I see you at the class, Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah, no. Yeah. You know,
We'll give you them neo-sonic beats.
No. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'll give you a beat, all right. Beat down. No. Yeah, it's different. It's different. And I worked at a HBCU, so it was, you know, the focus was actually more black women I taught.
Wow.
Like, and so when I saw black males or just males in general, it was nice. I was like, man, like, where are the young black men who's supposed to be in school? Like,
wow.
You know.
Crazy.
So
I told you the story earlier about how like my advisor talked me out of going to a HBCU.
Yeah, man. Who
and
knows?
like, I
could have run into you earlier, man.
He was very much like, because I almost went to Morgan State, and he was just like, nah. He's like, don't do it. He's like, it felt like maybe he had a bad experience, because he was just like, he's like, you're a black man. Why do you need to go to a black school? Like, the world's not this. It will not look like this.
It's not about
So it's going to throw you off and leave you less prepared for the world. And I'm like, well, yeah, all right. Makes sense, I guess, as an 18-year-old hearing this. And he's like, plus, he's like, I don't think the workforce takes black colleges seriously. So if you give yourself a better leg up if you don't do that. And I was just like, all right, I trusted this adult who told me these things. So, but now it makes me wonder, like, wow, like, what was his deal? But I don't know. I think I know what his deal was. Yeah, like, he got stuffed in a locker.
You should
no,
go to school where my mentor Sandusky went. You know, he was
you know what I'm saying?
Really.
Yo. All right, last minute. Is there any don't forget, there's a concert tonight at 10 p.m. Please don't go anywhere.
It's gonna be special.
Well, you can go anywhere for a few hours, but come back by 10. See the show. It's gonna be very special.
Time's
We're working
up.
with Danny of Console. We're working with 88-Bit, K Murdoch. I'm gonna have some special guests, of course. This is gonna be a set like you've never seen.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be super
please come through for that. Again, I even have stickers for you guys. These stickers are made by our good friend Aaron Hill, our Bits and Rhymes correspondent who made these dope things. So please come up and get a sticker. I need everyone to come get one. And thank you guys for being here. And we'll be at the table the rest of the evening. So come through if you need anything from us.
Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you for coming out. Viva Dream Master. If you guys don't have the Audible app, please download Audible and you get a free credit a month. And you can use that free credit for my book. So it's totally free. And I get a little kickback from that. So, you know. So, yes, download Audible and just type in Dream Master or come get a book. Thank you, guys. Peace.